Hi, my name is Dr. Muriel Nelson, the president for Liberia Unit. And today I will be leading you in the workshop entitled Advocating Project Proposal Writing, Reducing Poverty through Spiritual, Social, and Economic Growth. My work with women and girls over the years have led me to develop this workshop. As I move from one place to another, helping to give life skills to women and girls, one question kept moving in my mind. What can be done to reduce poverty? The women will acquire the skills. Later, they won't have an access to raising funds to support the project. We recognize that women and girls around the world form the larger population, but often are left on the margins. Given the issue of reducing poverty, this workshop will provide simple steps women can use in writing project proposals that source grants or fundings and address poverty in their communities through spiritual, social, and economic growth. Reducing poverty starts with knowing God, self, others, and having life skills. This workshop content includes introduction, goal and objectives, connecting with God, self, others, life and survival skills, steps in writing project proposal, a list of grant opportunities for sourcing funds, and questions for participants. Women will go out bearing fruits that last in their family, community, church, nation, and the world at large. The goal for this workshop is to advocate women empowerment for poverty reduction through project proposal writing that supports spiritual, social, and economic growth for women and girls in their community. The objectives for this workshop include: 1. Discuss and understand the meaning of poverty and the need to reduce poverty in our communities. 2. Understand that poverty reduction cannot happen in isolation of spiritual, social, and economic growth. 3. Recognize the need for life skills to reduce poverty and sustain women and girls' empowerment. 4. Demonstrate skills to write project proposal using simple steps. The workshop procedures: definition of poverty, impacts of poverty on the community, why is poverty reduction needed in our communities, connecting with God, connecting with self, connecting with others, connecting through life skills, simple steps in writing project proposal, grant opportunities available, follow-ups and feedbacks, questions for participants, and conclusion. What is poverty? Let's take a minute and write down one word in our context that best describes poverty. For my own context, I chose the word hunger. Another word would be thirsty, homeless, unemployment, illiteracy, garbage, slums, ghettos, crimes, trafficking, violence, abuse, nakedness, etc. The list goes on. On the general scale, poverty can be defined as when a person or a family is unable to provide for their basic human needs, such as food, clothing, and shelter. Some images of poverty in our communities include street kids, dilapidated structures, slum communities, garbage heaps, etc. If we know people in our communities who cannot afford to buy food, rent, or put clothes on their backs, this is a serious problem. The lack of basic human needs is the fundamental meaning of poverty. There are also impacts of poverty on our communities. How does poverty affect your community, or my community, or our community? If we were given the opportunity of naming 3 things poverty does to our community, what would they be? For my community, poverty hurts our community in many ways. It feeds poor health. It feeds broken education systems. It feeds high rates of violence and crime in our communities. It feeds homelessness. It feeds insecurity. So as we discuss reducing poverty, the first place we need to start is connecting with God. Poverty is a serious problem that affects the life of people, and we cannot address this problem unless we involve God. Let's look at 2 biblical passages. We start with Matthew 6:33. Matthew 6:33 teaches us that we should seek first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and all other things will be given to us. So first thing first, in order to solve poverty, we need to connect to God first. Then our second passage, which is Matthew 4:4, tells us about Jesus' response to the devil. After he had fasted 40 days and 40 nights in the desert, the devil came to Jesus and asked him to turn the stones into bread. knowing how hungry Jesus was. But Jesus said to him, "It is written that man shall not live by bread alone." So yes, although hunger is a phase of poverty, but food is not everything to life. Putting God first in everything counts a lot. And so connecting to God helps us as we deal with reducing poverty. Knowing God is essential to understanding our problems. Every training on poverty reduction for women and girls must involve one or more of the following: engaging women and girls in Bible study, engaging women and girls in devotions, engaging women and girls in prayer, engaging women and girls in fasting, engaging women and girls in worship, engaging women and girls through fellowship, engaging women and girls, and linking them with prayer partners. Also, reducing poverty requires us connecting with ourselves. Poverty is a serious social problem that affects the life of people, and we cannot address this problem without understanding who we are. We are persons created in the image of God, after the likeness of God. Poverty reduction is therefore linked to self-seeking understanding. Every training for women on poverty reduction must help women understand who they are, using the following questions: who am I? And where am I coming from? Where am I? And where do I need to go? What are my strengths and my weaknesses? Am I happy with where I am? Or do I need to try something new? How willing am I, or how available am I to make a new change? Understanding poverty reduction also requires connecting with others. Poverty is a serious social problem that affects people, affects the life of people, and we cannot address this problem without understanding others. We come from a family. We also come from a community. What affects one in the family or the community also affects the rest, whether directly or indirectly. So every training for women on poverty reduction must help women understand others. For example, who are my family? We are in family and we don't even know who our families are. Families can help to keep us in poverty, or families can help to move us out of poverty. Knowing our family provides information or informs us how we can deal with the issue of poverty. Who are our friends? Some of us have friends, but we really don't know who our friends are. At times, our friends can keep us in poverty. At other times, our friends help us out of poverty. Knowing who our friends are and how we relate to them informs us how to deal with poverty or how we can adjust ourselves to address the issue of poverty. What is my community? Some of us live in our communities, but we really don't know what our community is. What in our churches, we don't understand what our church is. It's important to understand our community because it informs us on how to address poverty. Also, what is our environment? We live in our environment, but many times we really don't know our immediate environment. We are not aware, we are not conscious of our environment. But understanding our environment informs us on how to address the issue of poverty. Also, as we deal with poverty reduction, we need to connect through life skills. Poverty is a serious social problem that affects the life of people, and we cannot address this problem without giving life skills. Poverty reduction is therefore linked to economic empowerment. Every training for women on poverty reduction must provide economic empowerment by connecting through life skills that matches her passion and her interests. For example, training programs set up for a period for 6 months, 9 months, up to 12 months. And these training must include some basics like Bible study. It's very essential. Counseling. Women come to the training with many issues. And through counseling, we are able to help them to understand health talks, including health talks, help women understand their bodies, help them know what to do with their life. Health talks prepare them even before they get to the hospital. And the fourth one is adult literacy. There are many women in our communities who were not fortunate to experience formal education. And so including adult literacy in our training programs provides an opportunity to help them learn to read and write. At least learn to write their own names. And so adult literacy is also an important basics for training program. Then the life skills that are to be included in the training program include but are not limited to catering, carpentry, plumbing, tailoring, arts and craft, interior decoration, tie and dye, beads making, crocheting and quilting, cosmetology, basket weaving and weaving in general, baking and cake decoration, etc. Now, you can make a list of what works in your context. Simple steps in writing project proposal. Poverty is a serious problem that affects the life of people, and we cannot address this problem without showing women how to source funding for their projects that will help reduce poverty in their communities. Any training for women on poverty reduction must include simple steps in writing project proposal. For example, step 1 is reference to God. Every project we start as women, we must reference God. We take Nehemiah for an example. When he was faced with the challenge of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, he sought God first. So Nehemiah 2:4 says, "The king said to me, 'What is it you want?' Then I prayed to the God of heaven." Starting everything with prayer is step 1. Step 2 is to assess the problem. Nehemiah's case, he went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally, he says, "I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate." Knowing the problem and understanding the problem is key to writing a project proposal. Step 3, involve the community or those who are stakeholders. Many times we want to do a project and we leave out the people that are going to benefit from the project. It is always important to include all stakeholders. Nehemiah 2:17-18. "Then I said to them, 'You see the trouble we are in? Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace.' I also told them about the gracious hand of my God on me and what the king has said to me. They replied, 'Let us start rebuilding.' So they began this good work." Involving others in your project is very important. This way, they all feel an ownership and it makes the project a success. Step 4 is your team must brainstorm and answer the following questions. Question 1. What is the name of our project? In other words, what is the project title? Number 2, your team must be able to state the reasons for the project. In other words, what is the goal or the objectives of this project? 3, the team must be able to describe the people who will benefit the project. In other words, who are the target beneficiaries of your project? Number 4, the team must be able to identify the project site. In other words, what is the target community or target communities? Number 5, when the team must be able to provide a timeline for the project. When will this project start? And when will this project end? Number 6, the team must be able to include the activities to be implemented. In other words, what are the set of activities that will complete this project? And number 7, how much? The team must be able to develop a budget for your project proposal. What do you need for this project to be implemented? How much does each of those items cost? And now you're going to put your budget together for your project. Step 6 is where you begin to write your project proposal, beginning with your background and your introduction. The background is just a history of the problem, describing your community, describing your project, and what it is you hope to accomplish at the end of your project. Step 6, you must take into consideration the risks that are involved. Your team must ask the question, what could bring our project to a standstill? Any answer to that question can substitute for a risk to your project. In step 7, your team must consider sustainability. What if the funds for this project runs out? How will we continue this project? As your team writes down the answer to that question, it provides for the continuation or the sustainability of the project. Step 8 talks about monitoring and evaluation. This is usually a place where most of us don't take serious. We all know that, for example, if you plant a garden, you don't just plant a garden and turn your back on it. You have to visit your garden every now and then. Because if you don't, the weed will come in your garden and your garden will not look like a garden anymore. So like your garden is as the project. When you have a project, you must visit your project very often. The M&E, or the monitoring and evaluation of your project, helps you discover early if there's any challenges or any problem that you may need to address. And so your monitoring and evaluation keeps you on track. The next thing for step 9 is reporting. Periodic reports must be provided to your donors. Your donors need to keep informed of what is going on with your project. Many times it's good to have photos before and photos after. Your before photos shows you where you started. Your after photos show you where your project is or what improvements have been made in your project. Step 10 is edit your project proposal. In other words, you can ask someone to proofread your proposal for possible correction. Now, we move to finding grants and funding. As we source grants and funding to address poverty or to reduce poverty and empower girls and women, one of the places we recommend is the Global United Methodist Women, now called United Women in Faith. They, over the years, have supported many projects on reducing poverty and dealing with women empowerment. The Methodist Women in Britain, they've also sponsored projects on reducing poverty and women empowerment. The World Federation of Methodist and Uniting Church Women also supports poverty reduction and women empowerment. Let's look in our local context, in our individual countries. We can make a list of opportunities, available opportunities of grants and donors that support poverty reduction and women empowerment. We can also make a list of international partners or donors in our country or our context that also contribute to poverty reduction and women empowerment. An exercise at this point is for each of us to develop a list of available grants opportunities in our communities or in our country. This list will help us identify where we can submit our project proposals. When we have completed our project proposal, we will need to submit our project proposal. When our project proposal is submitted, we need to follow up on our project proposal. Most times we submit our proposal and there is no follow-ups. Follow-ups are very important. Next is we need to give feedback to our women groups. We don't keep them in suspense. We often keep the line of communication open and provide feedback information to the group. We want to stop at this junction and ask few questions for your consideration. Question number 1. What word can you use to best describe poverty? Question number 2. How does poverty affect your community? Question number 3. Why is poverty reduction needed in our community? Question number 4. Is poverty reduction related, or how is poverty reduction related to spiritual, social, and economic growth? Again, how is poverty reduction related to spiritual, social, and economic growth? Question number 5. Is life skills important for economic empowerment? Is life skills important for economic empowerment? Question number 6, which is the last. How was this presentation helpful? In conclusion, poverty is a serious social problem that affects the life of people, especially women and girls. To reduce poverty, we need to consider the spiritual, social, and economic growth of women and girls. Advocating project proposal writing, reducing poverty through spiritual, social, and economic growth is one of many ways we can utilize to reduce poverty and empower women and girls around the world. We hope that this presentation has been helpful and will be useful for many women and girls around the world as we go out to bear fruits that will last. To God be the glory. Thanks for listening and participating. This is Dr. Muriel Nelson, President, Methodist Women, Liberia Episcopal Area, in Liberia unit. Thank you.